When you don't take time to look at it through other people's eyes. Take some time and reflect on what you believe in your soul. Cause that is the key to life. You gotta let the negativity go.
Hello and welcome to What the Fox podcast with your two hosts, Lindsey Fox and Amber Ross. Today we are going to do a quickie episode about a topic that we need to discuss this summer, and that is just the fact that as women, the many things that we face when we are about to go out and have a night out, have a good time, have girls' night, there are so many things that men don't realize that we go through as women when we're making that decision to go out. And before we even jump into it, I just want to remind you guys that we are sponsored by therapyappointment.com. If you are looking for a therapist, please go to therapyappointment.com to find one near you. Amber, we have to get into this real fast.
Lindsey,
We did not plan on doing this recording, but we're doing it right here, right now.
It is happening because something recently happened in my life that it has shown me that there's things that we don't talk about. And, we don't talk about Bruno and whatever, but we're going to talk about it today because recently I had an opportunity to go and hang out with a friend and go, downtown and go dancing, which I love. It is one of my favorite things. And generally, I travel in a group of people that typically has one or more of the menfolk variety with us, right? Because safety. Okay. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
But this particular adventure was just going to be myself and one other woman. And I woke up the morning of our planned day, right? And it's 5 o'clock in the morning because it's me. And on my heart and in my brain, all I could think was, Amber, you are not drinking tonight. For some reason, I feel really uncomfortable. I know I'm not going to have a single drink. I'll bring my own water, all of the things that are surrounding that. Amber,
and not for nothing, this is pretty extreme.
Like super extreme because you could have a beverage and have fun and it's not really that big of a deal. Right. But my entire being said, not tonight. And listen, I'm all about listening and honoring and I didn't question. I was just like, yep, that tracks. I trust my intuition. That is something that has not led me astray.
Wow.
But as I'm talking about this with Eric, he's looking at me like I've grown a second head. Right? Because he's like, what are you talking? It is too early in the morning for this. I'm like, no, stick with me. But my second one was, Amber, you're going to wear sneakers because if you need to run, you need to be able to run without worrying about heels getting caught or, rolling your ankle or whatever that might look like. And again, Eric's like, Amber.
Yeah. Again, very
hell?
Extreme.
I'm like,
again, very extreme to be having these thoughts. And I'm like, where is this coming from? Because I know you, Amber. I know that you love to go out and bebop around and dance and have a great time. So I'm like, where is this coming from?
But these are the thoughts. And it was in that moment as I'm having this conversation with Eric and another guy friend, I'm like, crap. Guys don't know that this stuff goes through our heads. Guys have no idea. Sometimes the anxiety and the worry that goes into planning a girls' night out.
I appreciate that you're bringing this up because I just went out last night and I never go out. Like it is so rare for me to go out. So that's the fun fact between Amber and I. Amber,
I'm the old married lady with 2 kids. I like to go out and dance.
And I'm the single one, and I actually tend to be more of a homebody and stay in. One of the reasons I do stay in more, and whenever I lived in downtown Boston, like I loved going around the city all the time. Like it was so much fun, but it just feels different being here in North Carolina and trying to do that. And I think that the key difference for me is that in Boston, I knew my people. I knew everyone that kind of worked. I mean, I also worked in operations and management within like hospitality. So I knew everyone that kind of worked at different restaurants and bars and hotels, and I felt comfortable. I knew every bouncer everywhere that I was walking around. Here in Raleigh, North Carolina, I don't have that same sense of safety. And it's not because I'm trying to say it's unsafe here. It's just that I personally don't have that established here yet.
Well, and to be fair, I do. Like I know people everywhere downtown. Like I run into people in restaurants and bars and, shops all of the time that I know and who would quote unquote watch my back. Right.
Well, that's a good point. And I was just going to say, even like last night, for example, one of the things that I find myself questioning or thinking about is what am I going to wear? And when I say that, I don't mean how can I look like
I
a
want to
sex
look
kitten on
hot.
the yeah, like how can I look like a sex kitten on the prowl? I don't
Mhm.
mean it like that. I mean like I honestly don't like people looking at me. It makes me feel very uncomfortable whenever I feel like someone's undressing me with their eyes. And
Mhm.
so I intentionally and strategically try to pick out outfits that are not going to draw a lot of attention to me.
Yeah. When it's like these are things that you grow up as a woman and they're just natural thoughts. It
Yeah.
somehow gets ingrained in us growing up. Like you have to be concerned about your safety at all times.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Well,
think that, go ahead.
sorry. Well, just as you just said that, I was like, well, that's the other thing. Is like, I don't want to take an Uber or a Lyft downtown. I want to drive
Mm,
my car. I want to buy my own drinks. I want to get my drinks from the bartender from their hand into mine. I don't I don't want to trust some stranger to drive me or to pick me up and take me back to my house and to know where I live.
yeah. And these
So
things are
there's all of
totally,
those things.
well, and these things are totally quote unquote normal, right? And if I think back, like,
All normal for who?
right. I mean, like Uber and Lyft are normal things. People use
Oh,
them all of the time. Like they're,
yeah.
obviously there's a lot of bad press with that too. And there's a lot of dangers and a lot of things that can happen. And I mean, I'm someone when I first started taking sales jobs, like early 20s, I was flying to other states and getting into Ubers and taxis and Lyfts with people because
Yeah.
I didn't know how to drive in these other states. And it was more
Sure.
anxiety inducing for me to try to figure out how to rent a car and drive than
Hmm.
to get into a car with a stranger.
Yeah.
Now, 34-year-old Amber, give me a rental car and let me drive myself.
Yeah. Well, wait, let's tie this back though, right? So you woke up the
Oh,
other
yeah, yeah, yeah.
morning and had like this profound intuitive feeling like something, I don't want to drink tonight, something feels off about tonight. I don't know what it is, but I already want to even I want to wear comfortable shoes that I know I can walk or run in if needed. So what
Yeah.
happened? What ended up happening that night or that day?
Well, nothing happened that day. We ended up not going out
But
because,
why?
well, yes. My friend reached out to me maybe an hour after Eric and I are having this very involved conversation at 5 a.m. and said that
Right.
unfortunately someone had slipped something in her drink the night before when she had been out. So like she was dealing with
Wow.
the after effects of that. And I will tell you, being someone who has been drugged while out on a girls' night, like there's a lot to unpack after that. There's a lot
No
that you
kidding.
consider of what could I have done differently? What did I do wrong? What did I do to deserve this? Is it ever
Yeah.
safe to go out in public again? Like,
Yep.
not to mention the fact that you are ill, like physically
It's
ill.
horrible. I've also had this happen, and in my particular situation, I was at a political event at a
Hmm.
person's house where it was a private party where different politicians were present, and that is where I actually experienced my first uh, drug incident that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
And it is so violating. It's so whether you're at a person's house or whether you're out at the bar downtown, I think that's another thing is like it could happen anywhere. Know your
Anywhere.
audience, know your group, know who your people are.
Well, and even with the best of intentions, like when it happened to me, I was out with a group of girls that I trusted implicitly. We
Sure.
thought we were doing a good job managing our drinks. We were buying our own beverages. Like we were staying in our little circle, and everything was like we were doing what we could or
Yeah.
what we thought needed to be done. And I still ended up getting drugged. And thankfully, like I was in a
I'm
group of
so
girls and they
sorry.
took care of
Wow.
me. So nothing happened to me.
Yeah.
Um, but just that violation and that
Hmm.
intense feeling of I'm not safe to leave my house anymore. Like, should I even be allowed to go have fun? Do I get to do these things? Like, it sucks, and it sucks the
Yeah.
life out of you.
Yeah. It does. I mean, it does, but this is also where I think, having that balance is really necessary where you don't give in and you stay home 24/7. So as I've
Mhm.
just said, right? It's like I tend to stay home a lot. Um, Granted, there's been a lot that's happened over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
It's so for those who are not aware, I had a major issue with regard to my ex-husband where stalking was a huge issue. And so over the last few years, that's been something that I have really dedicated a lot of heart work and trying to work through that. Um,
Mhm.
So there's that piece of my story that I haven't really discussed on this podcast, but most of it is now public record at this point, so I feel comfortable saying it out
Yeah.
loud. But I think, Amber, to your point, is that absolutely do I have those heightened spidey senses of like, okay, where am I going? What is the parking situation? What's the vibe? What is the ambiance?
Yeah.
How many people? What's the what is the straight up occupancy of where this place is? What can I expect? On a
Yeah.
Friday or Saturday night, or would I prefer to go like on a Tuesday or Wednesday?
But it's
Um,
like, I imagine that there are people in this world who don't think about those things before they go out. And like, part of me
Many
thinks,
people,
yeah, many people, part of
but
me thinks, oh my God, that must be
especially
amazing.
right, right. I mean, right. And that's where I say, I know we're talking about this as two women discussing our experiences, and it's not to minimize or act like this does not exist with other populations of different, different demographics, what have you. It's just
Hmm.
we're speaking from our personal experience
Yeah.
and what we've kind of noticed. This was just kind of a improvised episode, really, just because
Yeah.
Amber was just telling me about this, and I'm like, God, you're so right. Um, there's a lot of men in both of our lives that are actually pretty naive to the fact that this is even a thing.
Yeah, and so it got me thinking, because when Eric and I, like, as I'm telling him, he's looking at me like I've grown a second head. Like, these things have
Yeah.
never occurred to me, and I'm like, holy shit, they've never occurred
Mhm.
to you? Okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting. So then I started talking to other men in my life, and I'm like, I want to run something by you. Like,
Yeah.
does this stuff occur to you? And some of them, like, I got varying degrees of, I always watch out for the girls in whatever groups, because I know you guys have it rough, or I know that that's something that a lot of you, like, you have those thoughts in your head all the time. So I always try to be like that person, all the way to, holy shit, that's never even occurred to me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like someone was giving me shit last night about like, Lindsay, just pay like the $8 or $10 to get like a Lyft or an Uber. And I'm like, no, I don't think you understand. This isn't about the money to pay for a pickup and a drop off. This is the fact
Yeah.
that I don't want someone else picking me up, knowing where I live and how to gain access to me or lock me in their car or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like,
Or
no,
knowing that
thank
you're
you.
home alone, or
Yeah, I don't
knowing,
want any of that stuff being known.
mm-mm. Yeah.
No. My home
Well,
is my
and
sanctuary and my body is my temple. I don't want anyone around any of it.
yeah. Well, and I think, this is one of those conversations that you don't realize that we don't talk about. And the more I
Yeah.
started talking about it with friends, the more I
Mhm.
realized that the majority of the women I know have either been drugged while out,
Yeah.
or had a near miss in a situation, or at least it's something that is prevalent in their mind as a concern. And
Yeah.
we never talk about it with each other. Like, it's just this thing that hangs over our heads, and
Mhm.
we accept it as part of our lives, but we don't unpack it or talk about any of that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're so right. And as you were saying that, I'm thinking, frankly, I feel like this is something we hear a lot being discussed in minority populations such as African Americans, where I will have to say throughout the last few years, there's been a lot of education that has, had a spotlight on the fact that, just understanding what are you supposed to do if
Mhm.
you get pulled over, and understanding
Yeah.
like, what does it mean if you're in this kind of space, and how should you behave? How should you talk? And so it's like, this definitely exists in different areas of people's lives. And I will agree, like for us as women, there's a whole nother culture that we're privy to that no one's really talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, the Me
But
Too movement did shed some light on kind of the reality of the fact that it's so common. Um,
yeah.
but what I don't think a lot of people who realize is the fact that it's more than just like, oh, it's so common. It's like this is a fundamental truth of how we live our lives, and
Yeah.
how you need to think in order to survive or get through day-to-day living.
Absolutely. It changes how you approach so many situations, and we just accept that as the way it has to be. But I mean,
Hmm.
honestly, like, we can do better. We can do so much better. And I will always advocate for women to have self-defense classes, to have access to personal
Yep.
defense items, whatever that looks like for you,
Yep.
to be very mindful of your surroundings, to be very aware of the people you're with, and to be hyper vigilant. Because yeah, we all want to go out and have a good time, but the reality is that it's not always a safe space to do that. And I
Mhm.
mean, it's unfortunate, but your safety is primary concern always.
Yes,
I mean,
definitely.
and like it's one of those
Yes.
things that you say it and you're like, well, duh, Amber, but like that reality has to sink in.
Yep. Yeah. And I think it's unfortunate that a lot of times it's for women who have already had to go through it where it sinks in.
Yep.
Because so that's the other piece of the story, right? Is the fact that it can never happen to you. It can never happen to me. Like
Yes, it
this
can.
happens to someone else, or it happens to someone else's daughter, it happens to someone else's friend or neighbor. And it's
Yep.
like, no, babe, it can happen to you. Um,
Literally anyone, anytime.
yeah, big time.
Yeah.
But so I'm glad that you were just kind of we were just casually talking about this, and I was like,
As
wait,
we do.
why aren't we recording this right now? Because it's
Lindsay, only you and I casually talk about really hard stuff like this. Just the two of us, I think.
let's just have a conversation about date rape and press record. Great. Nothing like a good dark humor kind of podcasting
Happy
situation going
Tuesday.
on.
Stay safe out there.
Yeah, stay safe. But seriously, in terms of like things to look out for though, and just to kind of, bring that full circle is truly like making sure, hey, if someone's buying you a drink, make sure you're getting it from that bartender. And it's
Yep.
not someone like getting you a drink and then walking it through the crowd to you or
Nope.
whatever. Like make sure that you are getting it from, person A to you as person B. It is a one-time engagement in that sense, or if you put a napkin over your glass, or there's actually really cool little things. So I can't remember the name of the
Oh, I've
business.
seen those.
You've seen
Yeah.
it?
The little
Like
cover for
it's like
your
a,
cup. Mm-hmm.
yes, it's like a little lid thing. And the other thing is that I've noticed in some environments, I love when establishments have like a code word or
Oh,
something written in the
yeah.
bathroom for women.
Yep.
I love that. Like if you need to go to the bartender and say like, "Oh, I'd like a blonde bombshell shot or whatever." And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, or I'd like an angel shot or something. And
Yeah.
it's like a code for the bartender to know to help you.
That you
Um,
need something. Yeah, absolutely.
mhm,
And I think I want to kind of take a pause because I don't ever want anyone to feel like it's your fault it happened to you or you didn't
mm,
do something that caused it to happen. Because the reality is, you can be as vigilant as possible. You can be as careful as possible. You can be on your freaking A game, and
yep.
someone can still slip by your defenses. And that is not your fault. You have not done anything wrong. It is not, we're not going to do victim blaming around here.
No,
And
no.
and in that same breath, I think Lindsay and I just want to make sure that everybody does everything possible to stay safe. I mean, no,
Yes.
you don't want anybody you care about to get hurt. We don't want anybody to get hurt. So
Right. And
just
even as you say that, I'm thinking like how I was just commenting how for me personally, I become really mindful about like what are the clothes that I'm wearing. This does
yeah.
not mean like you're not entitled to wear whatever the fuck you want.
Yes.
Like you're
True.
allowed to do whatever you want and wear whatever you want. It's just I'm just saying for me and my
It's your
personal
experience and your
experience.
preference. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And so, regardless of what it is that you choose to wear and how you choose to dance, that does not give anyone the right to violate your right to
Nope.
consent.
Nope. And I
Yeah.
think obviously this is a heavier topic than what we've covered in a little while. So, you know, deep sigh, heavy breathing. But it's also something really important that we all bring awareness to, no matter your gender, no matter your orientation, no matter your demographic,
Mhm.
whatever that looks like. We can all help watch out for each other and we can create spaces that we are able to enjoy without feeling like we're going to be harmed, right?
Yeah. And also, shout out to you, Amber, and really listening to your intuition. I mean, how wild is that that you woke up that morning having like this really bizarre feeling and questioning your spidey senses, like what's going on, but
Yeah. And I
also
mean,
understanding you needed to trust it. I mean, there's something to be said for that. So, you guys, if you guys get the hair on your back standing
listen
up, you
to
need to
it.
pay attention to it.
Well, and like, typical Amber fashion, it wasn't going to stop me from going out. I was just going to be very well prepared when I went out.
Well, yeah, I think that's good though, right? In the sense that you shouldn't allow your fear to paralyze you. You
Yeah.
shouldn't allow your fear to win and to hijack your life. I mean, that's really when our level of functioning depletes to where it can become clinically um,
Yeah.
troublesome in your quality of life and functioning. I mean, that's when you see some mental health conditions develop. So, yes, keep living your life. Don't live in fear and in a box. You still have to get out there. You still deserve to dance and have a great time. Just be really cautious and mindful, have that situational awareness at play of like who is where and who you want to
Yeah,
talk to or make eye contact with or whatever. It's just being mindful, that's all. And doing the best that you can
absolutely.
with what you've got, because at the end of the day, we are all humans and that's all we can do. Um, but I do think just a big part of what you're talking about is important, though, in terms of trusting your intuition.
Yeah, absolutely. And just bringing awareness to folks who maybe haven't considered this, right? Whether
Mhm.
you've experienced it directly or indirectly, this is reality for many of us.
Yeah, and have some compassion for the people in your lives where if they are saying something like this, please, please don't be that person who tries to minimize it and be like, "Oh, you're over exaggerating or you're being ridiculous." Like, please don't be that person. To
Yeah, it's not
like,
a good look.
yeah, don't shoot that person down. There's usually a reason why people say stuff like, hey, I'm having doubts about this, or I don't know how I'll feel about it. Honor that person's boundary, whatever that means to them. So if you feel like getting an
Absolutely.
Uber and the other person wants to drive solo, okay, so be it.
Yeah,
Like, or,
absolutely.
so just that's the other piece too. It's like no need to shame or to should someone into doing something because you don't understand it. Maybe pause and reflect on the why. Like, why are they saying that?
Hmm.
What is why is this such an important topic that they keep emphasizing? Is there something I maybe don't know or understand that I can learn in this situation?
Absolutely. I mean, having an open mind and just allowing people to show up as themselves is really important, especially if, you're talking about somebody who's a friend. I would never expect a friend to make me feel badly about a decision I made for something I was fearful or worried or just something that was, causing me angst or anxiety.
Well,
So
girl,
good
you just
advice.
made that, you just brought that on, right? And we just finished having an episode on friendship. So, way to just tie that into like a pretty little bow.
I mean,
Yes, what to have and not to have in friendships. We do not want the asshole friendships, please. Thank you. Next.
yes, yes. And on that note,
Yeah, this was random, but hey, thanks for tuning in, guys. This is just your summer situational awareness check-in. We hope that it was helpful for you guys. Do what you want with it. Please share it with a friend if it's something that, maybe we said something today that resonates with you that you feel would be helpful, sharing with a friend where maybe we said something in ways that you haven't been able to put into words to help someone understand your needs and how someone can help you. So that being said, don't forget to give us a rating on your preferred platform, and
5 stars.
we hope, yeah, yeah, 5 stars is preferred. Yes,
Five
this is
stars.
true. And with that, we will see you next Tuesday. Bye, guys.
Bye.
And we all sing, everything is gonna be just fine. It's gonna fall into place. The sun is gonna set on your terrible day.